purpose of this presentation is to help you see how Enterprise Scrum can help your organization to scale Agile to build a better future. So this presentation is split into two parts. The first part, which is this one, we will start by answering a question: what is scaling Agile? So we can all have the same understanding of what it means by scaling Agile. And I'll present to you what are some of the key important scaling factors that you must consider when scaling Agile. In part 2 of this presentation, we'll go over how Enterprise Scrum can measure up to scaling factors that I presented in the first part of this presentation. And I present to you how Enterprise Scrum can help your organization with scaling Agile. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Alex at Agile Lounge for providing me with valuable feedback on this presentation. A bit about myself: I'm very passionate about helping organizations flourish in this fast-moving 21st century. I'm a business agility consultant, an enterprise Scrum instructor and coach. For the past 10 years, I have helped many organizations adopt Agile and has helped companies like Accenture, ADP, Belcor, and many more. And I have a master's degree in computer science from NYU. So what does scaling Agile mean to you? As some of you may know, we have a meetup group here in New York City for Enterprise Scrum for Business Agility. On September 2018, I gave a presentation on comparing different Agile frameworks, such as LESS, SAFe, and Enterprise Scrum. And the presentation is specifically as it relates to how each framework helps us scaling Agile. In the beginning of that presentation, I also asked the same question to the group. These are some of the answers I got at that meetup. Many answers are about the characteristic of successfully scaling Agile, but I simply asked the question what it means by scaling Agile, which is the definition of scaling Agile. Scrum is a perfect, well, almost perfect framework in building a new product by one team. This one team has all the skills and resources needed to build this one product, and they are empowered to do so. They certainly have the environment to become self-organized. One of the reasons that this works well for them to become self-organized is because they have little to no dependencies that they need to manage outside the team. This is so as the most of the dependencies are managed within the team. But now, how many products that you know that can be built by one team made up of 5 to 9 people? Not many. So many products are built by multiple teams. Now, when we have more than one team building one product, there are many things that the team are sharing. But let's talk about 2 major things in Scrum. They are product backlog and the product. Now, as you very well know, sharing creates dependencies. So how can we set up an organization so that they are empowered to become self-organized as they would with one team building one product? So the definition of scaling Agile for this presentation simply means we are applying Agile or Scrum to more than one team. It is about more than one team working together to build one product. And this presentation is to help you solve the challenges that you have with that. Does Scrum Guide tell you how to scale? No, it doesn't. It's very silent about how more than one team work together. So we have many frameworks addressing the challenges that we have with scaling Agile, such as LESS, SAFe, Scrum at Scale, Nexus, and of course, Enterprise Scrum, and many more. Now, LESS solves this through feature teams, and it works very well to a certain point. As you will see in my next presentation, Enterprise Scrum addresses and solves these scaling Agile challenges in more practical way that meets the need and demands of this 21st century market. In my assessment, other frameworks solves the scaling challenges through a hierarchical organizational structure. So if you look at this, right, a lot of times that the organization or company was successful with applying Scrum to one team or maybe a few teams, then they start to scale and they just add more teams, right? So just adding more teams, it's not gonna work because without managing any dependency, it just becomes very chaotic. It's worse than what we used to have it in waterfall. So next thing that a lot of organizations try is the Scrum of Scrum. In my opinion, Nexus and also Scrum at Scale are pretty much similar to this. And all other frameworks are pretty much just adding more teams and introducing more roles and layers, and it becomes a hierarchical. So by being hierarchical, it's like what we used to have it in a waterfall, a traditional organization. And hierarchical manages some dependencies, but what it does is that it kills the self-organization. So, but because the team is not responsible for making a decision, they are relying on hierarchical, another role, to make the decision that they need. And by doing that, we had the delay in making decisions. And eventually, this leads to non-autonomous team because they cannot self-organize because when they're relying on a lot of things that they need to do on others. So as I was saying, because we were sharing this one product and then product backlog, I think the key thing that we need to do is that we manage all this dependency that happens in the requirements and also the domain knowledge that one has. How many people have this domain ones and how do we share that? And then product, how do we build the one product that many teams are working on? And how do we communicate? These are the dependencies and the questions that we need to answer in order to successfully scale. So how can we have the same synergy and autonomy that we have with the one team to the multiple team and even to the whole organization and serve our paying customer very well? So what are some of the key factors that we need to consider when we are scaling? So goal should be, we want to have a self-organized team. So in order to do that, we need to have a cohesiveness within the team and loosely coupled among teams. And then which leads to minimum dependency among team. And we need to help them how they communicate when and where they need it. So key thing about this is that when we need to look at the boundaries that we use to group each team, right? What are the basis of, this should be used as the basis of the scaling. And then how do we integrate the work together since we're building one product? And then it comes to how do you communicate the requirements that the team are building, right? That we are sharing this again, right? And then the domain knowledge and the product itself. These are the key factors that we need to consider when we are scaling. Now, did you know that number one reason that your customer go away is because they think that they don't care about them? There's about whopping 66% of the customer leave just because they think that you don't care about them. So how can we serve paying customer better? And how can we even structure our company to serve them better? So let me introduce what it is by a customer segment. What is a customer segment? Let me start by giving you an example. So in a banking industry organization, traditionally we have a department organized into serving the checking department and checking needs, and then credit card department that does all the work that's related with the credit card and mortgage and loan. So as you can see, this will provide a very efficiency because they are specialized in what they know and the product itself, right? These are more product-based because product or functional. And we did all this because it seems that it is leading to an efficiency. Now, when we look at a customer segment-based organization, it is organized into what we call as a business unit that serves the personal and individual customer needs, or the institutional, or high net worth, or wealth management, or the commercial. As you can see, these are organized based on need for each different customer segments. And then they're grouped by their needs. Because as you can see, need for an institutional customer segment will be different from need for commercial customer segment. So customer segment is basically simply organizing and categorizing an organization based on customer needs, and it's focused on delivering value to the customers. And it is not focused on providing functional efficiency. What is the point of providing an efficiency when those services are not even needed? So it is not about producing a lot of features and outputs. It's about producing value or giving value to the users. Some of the example that is that, like United Airlines. If you ever flew with United Air, they have a whole business unit that just focus on providing the royalty to the business. And also Comcast, the services that you get from the commercial unit and versus the residential unit is totally different because they're organized into these two different units. So let me ask you this. If the Apple is organized like this, MacBook, iBook, iPad, Apple Watch, iTunes, and so on, do you think this is a customer-centric? No, this is not. Better way of doing it would be organizing into something like small business, personal, educational, enterprise, government, and nonprofit. As you can see, these are grouped into different customer segments, and each customer segment, they have a different needs for it. And so when you scale this, you organize your business and you put the people together just to serve each customer segment. And then you organize your business like this as well. As you will see in the part 2, this Enterprise Scrum would help you do it this way. Now, you all know this is a very good picture of depicting what a product goes through in their product life cycle. So each product goes through these 4 different major stages. First, when it comes out, nobody knows whether it's going to work or not. So it is more or less what we call as a question mark introduction stage. And once it gains its validity and its use, it would go through a star or growth stage, and then cash cow, and then finally it goes to a decline, which is the dog stage. Now, a question that we need to ask is that should we apply the same type of process at different stage of the product life cycle? Does that make sense? No, I don't think we should do that because the process and the work that's involved at this different stage will be different. So why should we apply the same process and the same framework, or the framework that doesn't offer any other way to the different stage of this product life cycle? So as you will see in a part 2, we will help you. Enterprise Scrum is very configurable, so you can pick and choose what works for at different stages of product life cycle. Now, so just to recap, what are some of the key factors when we are scaling? First, is the most important thing is that what boundary, what are the grouping things that we use to scale? This is really key. And then because that we have more than one team doing producing one product, what are some of the how do we integrate work together? What model do we use? Do we use a centralized delegation or collaboration? And how do we communicate the requirements and domain knowledge and product features and so on? Then I want to add two more, which is a key point, especially when we are scaling and it's a large organization. Are we organized by a customer segment? And then are we using the right process at different stage of the product life cycle? So these are the key factors we should consider when we are scaling. As many of you already know, this Enterprise Scrum was developed and created by late Mike Beadle. And these are based on many experiences that he had in the trenches. I learned Enterprise Scrum from Mike and realized that what he done is the framework has a lot of similar things that I have personally experienced in my work as well. And I am convinced that this is the right framework for building a better future. So thank you. This concludes the part 1 of this presentation. So take a little break and come back and then listen to the second part of this presentation. Thank you.